music, tackles, every year.
I think JT has the same haircut that Javier Bardem had in No Country for Old Men. He sort of looks a bit like a serial killer. If he wasn't such a good bloke, you'd imagine he's probably massacred 1,000 prostitutes already.
Yeah. I had big raps on Damien Cook early this year. Successful Origin series. He's made the Kangaroos.
I was complimenting him early, to be fair, but mainly his moustache.
You know what I have noticed about the women's game is their hairstyles. You're going to have long hair and play the game. You're going to have to keep it pretty tight, but I'd like to see him go the next level and shave the head.
So you just want 34 baldies out there in
or
the
at
women's
least
game?
one or two in the halves.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of The Voluntary Tackle, the only NRL podcast that has managed to retain its coach for more than 4.5 minutes. I'm your host, Eamon Brown, and today on the show we'll be discussing all of the late-breaking news in the world of NRL. It's off-season, but first, I am joined by the only man who at the age of 27 thought Moby Dick was a venereal disease. Of course, I refer to Chip Jones.
Well, it's cleared up.
Well, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's cleared up. So this is what happens when you put it out there too much.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
it's
can actually,
overuse.
You can, yeah.
Right.
It wears a bit thin.
So what came first? Was it the disease or the giant whale out of literary fiction?
Oh, look, mate, you know, I don't like to...
That's what they call yours, isn't it?
A venereal disease.
No, the giant whale out of literary fiction.
Well, I'm glad you've brought this up. I can't read.
We're probably going to have to kick off the show, mate, with some late-breaking news. One, Wayne Bennett, the sage, that's sort of the Mr. Miyagi character of the NRL.
Heading
Been around
south?
for a long time. Well, yes, exactly. He's heading south to Souths. What do we make of that move? It's taken some heavy breathing.
It really makes me wonder, is Seabold going to end up at the Broncos?
Do you ever used to watch that show Wife Swap?
I really loved that show, but I couldn't get... I tried to get on.
Right, okay.
But no one would take her.
Which is weird because you weren't ever married as well.
Well...
Who are you trying to trade?
Well, I've got this arrangement. So, on a Friday when I get my pay packet, I go down to my local shop.
This is going down a very dark rabbit hole.
I hire myself a wife for the weekend. And I thought, you know what, maybe I can save a few dollars and upgrade on the wife swap.
Nice.
Just take her in and...
So you were trying to trade your prostitute? Is that what you were trying to do?
I was trying to uptrade.
Uptrade.
I was trying to uptrade it.
Uptrading prostitute. It's like a really nefarious stock market.
Yeah.
Well, it's a weird life you live, Chip, I have to admit. But I certainly want to hear more about it. Not right now, because let's face it,
It's
has
a rugby
very
league
little to do with
isn't it? Yeah.
the game of rugby league. So we'll leave it in the corner for the moment. Okay. Don't worry, off air we'll have we'll get a shrink onto that. But no, with Wayne Bennett, this is a very interesting situation, and we've talked about this on the show before, Chip. And I think the big quandary we have is, sure, he's old. Sure, he's a bit of a cunt. He's grumpy all the time. But the one thing you can't criticise Wayne Bennett for is his coaching record. Now, the guy is a fairly undisputed king of coaching. Only arguably Craig Bellamy might come close to him, Robbo down the track maybe. But to be in the game for as long as he has and to have had the amount of success he has makes you think there's something weird going on, that people are wanting to punt this guy. Clearly, he's not thinking about retiring. He's heading to Souths. What is it that Wayne Bennett is going to bring to the club down there at South Sydney?
Well, look, I think, you know, looking into his past is a good place to start, you know, trying to understand where he's coming from. I think having the whole of Queensland to pick players from has helped.
Brisbane were essentially the Maroons there
pretty
for a
much,
while, weren't they?
Pretty much, yes, they were.
And they didn't win every year, which is kind of a slight on the Maroons.
You know, last time Bennett came down south to Cogra, he started strong. And then he kind of faded, which, you know, I'm not sure if that's a Saints. That's typical of the
no, it's
St.
kind of what
George.
they do. It's
kind of
what
they
you'd
do,
probably
isn't it?
call their modus operandi.
It's how they roll.
They love sort of taking the premiership out pre-season and then fading pretty quickly after sort of the round 3-4 part of the competition.
But maybe I could ask you a question and
Well, this is unusual.
you know, Wayne Bennett being the coach that he is,
Yes.
do you think he can go one better than Seabold and have the Rabbitohs lose to the Roosters in the grand final this coming season?
Well, I'll tell you, you've got to set your ambition. They've got to be lofty ambitions. And I think that on his wall at home, Wayne Bennett probably has a picture in his mind. So he has a mental mind map on his wall. It's getting weird. Of South Sydney losing to the Roosters. I think that's his aspiration.
That's a high watermark.
Which it is. I mean, he can't expect to beat the Roosters.
He wants to
let's
be Melbourne,
honest.
basically.
Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, he wants to be the Melbourne of 2019. He wants to be humiliated in the biggest game of the year.
Could he have gone to Melbourne?
No, because they've got Craig Bellamy, who is probably the greatest coach of the modern era. We have to sort of concede that. Although, again, he's had a lot of Queensland to choose from as well, hasn't he? He's yet to pick from that nursery. And it's interesting, Chip, because we obviously are very intelligent listeners, and we threw out a poll. We wanted to know what our listeners thought of Wayne Bennett heading to South. So we asked, what will Bennett bring to the South Sydney Rabbitohs? We gave them 4 options, so we tried to be a bit prescriptive because we don't want to get too many weird options.
Who picked these options?
Probably me, I don't know.
It was you, wasn't it?
Now, the options were wisdom, superannuation,
Yeah, wisdom's a shit one. Superannuation, yeah, that's funny.
Alzheimer's disease,
That's great.
or a premiership.
Don't see it.
And 56% of people went with Alzheimer's. So do you think it's this kind of ageism aspect, Chip, that has seen Wayne Bennett depart the Broncos? Are they just against him because he's fucking old, is what I'm saying?
Well, why else could they be against him? I mean, it's not like he hasn't...
Because he's a cunt?
Well, yeah, but they don't seem to mind that at Queensland.
Yeah, you're right. This is the club that hailed Justin Hodges as one of the best players. So you're right. They have no problem with cunts. Well, I guess that the interesting thing about this is they're getting Seabold and Souths are getting a C-bomb. Do you think that sort of plays into the mind games between the two clubs?
It may do. I think it'll come down to who finishes higher.
Do you think that there should be a show where South set up something with the Broncos and they do the wife swap thing, they do the coach swap, but the twist is that each coach has to live the life of the other guy. So that Seabold has to go up to Brisbane and fuck up his marriage and go on a bender with some young trollop.
No, that's a shit idea, really. I don't think that would be very interesting.
But we have a bit of a treat on the show today. We're actually joined by the very funny Queensland-based comic Rob Brown. I certainly hope I've got that right, Chip. I assume he's from Queensland. I just feel like that's in the deep recesses of my mind.
Hello, Rob Brown.
Rob Brown, it's a voluntary tackle here, mate. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for the invite.
That's all right, buddy. Now, look, we know you're a bit of a league fan, Rob, and obviously a very funny man as well. We thought it'd be a good opportunity to get you on the show, and I think I want to start this way because I'm not sure if it's going to be a love-hate relationship or not. But we want to know who you support, Rob. I actually, for the record, don't know who that is.
He wanted to know before you came on, actually.
I support the Broncos.
Okay, goodbye, Rob. No, I'm kidding, mate. That's all right, mate. A lifelong fan, or how did that start?
No, I was born in the Shire, so I have an affinity for the Sharks. Left very early. Fell in love with rugby league when I was about 12, when the Parramatta Eels were on fire. So I followed the Eels for a long time. And then Jared Hayne happened, and that made the switch easier. So, good. Okay, so see you later.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's like when someone you're really fond of gets some kind of horrible disease. And in this case, of course, it's Jared Hayne.
It's Jared Hayne. And you go, well, this is neither curable nor terminal. So I best depart.
Mate, were you aware that Jared's heading to the Saints next year?
That's bad news for the Saints. That's another bad buy.
Well, my next question was, if he went to the Broncos, would you still be a Broncos fan, or would you have to go back to the...
I could not see the Broncos ever buying Jared Hayne. That is just not... I could not see that in their wheelhouse somehow.
Mate, Rob, what if they bought him deliberately just to sacrifice him on the field, like Joan of Arc?
Well, look, I'd pay money for that.
That'd be fantastic.
I think we all would.
You'd see memberships go through the roof, I think.
Well, mate, they would get a big enough following up here. I mean, but listen, if you were going to publicly flay and hang Jared Hayne, then I'm sure people would watch it. All metaphorically, obviously.
Well, I think you could do a membership drive where if you paid your membership, you could vote for what kind of execution we give him.
Well, I think he just go back to the US and embarrass himself again.
Wasn't that a shocker?
Embarrassment.
Oh, mate, to be fair to him, he had a fairly good game in 5th grade for about 4 minutes. That's not to be sneezed at.
You're right. I think taking the time out of your day to sneeze at it gives it more credit than it's worthy of. So I think you think a lot higher of it than I do.
Rob, it brings us to the next point, mate. Now, there's a lot of, what would you call them, crisis merchants in the game. There's a lot of negativity around the NRL, and here on the podcast, we love to be a part of that, frankly. So we want to know, what gripes do you have with the NRL?
Oh, look, I have a lot of gripes with the NRL. I have gripes mainly with touch judges. I think if you go to the bunker because you didn't see if someone put their foot out, which is basically your fucking job, you should maybe just give it a miss.
Do you think that touch judges almost shouldn't be a thing now? Because I can't think. I know in the 80s and the 90s they had a.
We don't even need referees on the field anymore. We could control it all from the bunker, Wizard of Oz style. There could just be a giant fucking hooter go off when there's
That's
a penalty,
a great
and
idea.
everyone could just turn and face the screen and see who the colonel has decided has fucked up at this moment.
Might be a really good way we could use those flame torches that they used to have down the back of the field. You know, just erupt some flame. Yeah.
Instead of getting a 10-minute sideline, you get a 3rd-degree burn on your left side or something.
Exactly. We could torture them at will.
It sounds very Roman Colosseum, and I'm certainly for it, Rob. That's a great idea. So
Well, that's where we're heading.
It is where we're going. You're right, because at the moment, essentially, the bunker sort of is controlling things, isn't it? I think we've got that human element out there just to make people feel good about the game, but he doesn't do anything.
Is there to blow a whistle? We don't need that. We can have a whistle come over the speakers, and this is the future of it's the future of everything. I mean, I just went and bought some stuff from Woolworths. I now work the cash register. I now have a job there. So everything's automated. We don't need them.
If you've scanned enough items, you may have actually accrued enough of a wage to earn a profit.
Well, look, if you use the self-service lines properly, as I do, I always find them far cheaper than going through where the ladies are because they scan everything.
They do, mate.
There's that cheeky non-scan.
They're very thorough, and they almost never buy as many onions as I managed to buy. I bought about 18 kilos of onions, which is weird, but cheap, surprisingly cheap.
Amazing. And those onions looked a lot like AA batteries, Rob, we have to say. I think I see a lot of them on eBay.
Like everything.
Yeah. Mate, look, we have to ask you about this. There's a lot of musical chairs going on in the coaching world in the NRL. But I think the most awkward thing at the moment is the plight of one Trent Barrett, who appears to be employed at the Manly Seagulls to do fuck all. Do you have any particular opinions about that?
Well, I think he's done a superb job of doing that. And, I can't see why he couldn't do that for another 12 months. I think he has. Look, I do feel. Whenever I see the image of Trent Barrett in my head, the sound of that song "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend" starts up, and it's sad. I think I don't know if Trent deserves that. He's the only thing that could make it better is if Nathan Brown turned up and slapped him across the face again. That would be the only way that could make it funnier for me. This is absolutely hilarious. But,
maybe he could do that sort of once a round or something. Nathan Brown could be paid by the Eagles just to physically abuse Trent Barrett.
Every Manly Dragons game, Trent gets slapped in the face. It's just for old time's sake, not for violence.
So what do you think some of the conversations might be like at Manly next year? It could be like, Trent, mate, I'll have a flat white, one sugar. We've got some photocopying. Mate, those water bottles.
I just had this washed when you're parking it. It could be any of those conversations. It really could. It really could be.
But on a very serious note, Rob, if you could be any animal eating an NRL player, which animal would you be, and which player would you eat?
Look, what animal? Maybe a kangaroo, and because they're the most violent of all Australian animals. And I would probably eat. Jamie Lyon jumps into my mind.
That's a mouthful.
Not playing anymore.
Could I just tell you something, Rob? The idea of watching a David Attenborough where a kangaroo was mercilessly eating Jamie Lyon, it almost makes me cream, to be honest.
Yeah. And you can see the reason I'm thinking that, you can see the YouTube headline, which would be "Kangaroo Kills Lion," and you just go, fuck, I've got to watch that. And
It'd be better than you thought.
And then just be so disappointed. Like that time I rented that movie Snatch. Fucking nothing like it. Very misleading. I think if you're going to have titles, fucking use them.
Rob, last question, mate. If there was one rule change you'd implement in the NRL, what would it be?
Okay, I think when it comes to state of origin, well, two things actually. When it comes to state of origin, anything goes. Anything short of knifing someone in an origin, I think.
So just to be clear,
and depending on how you knife them, it could even be allowed.
So if you had, say, a wrench, which I think probably comes in just marginally lower than a knife, you could use that on the field.
You could use that. It's an origin. It's origin. It's got to be. That's what it's about.
Wouldn't that be? That would be amazing. That opening kickoff, that hit up when someone's just got a sack full of doorknobs.
Man, I remember going. Here's something. I don't mean to be serious, but I went to an Origin game with Queensland Police Academy versus New South Wales Police Academy. It was very early 80s. It was at Lang Park. I'm sitting in the outer there.
Beautiful.
The ball kicked off. There was one tackle. It just fucking erupted. They finally got them separated. Next tackle, boom, fuck, erupted again, right? Watching coppers punch fuck out of each other for what was about 18 minutes until the ref called it off was probably the most fun I've ever had.
That's fantastic.
Even as a child, that was amazing. Here's my other rule change. I think I would like to approach rugby league clubs and go, I could make your cheapest seats in the venue the most expensive by simply letting people keep the ball if it goes in the crowd, like i.e. baseball.
Yep.
You know?
Mate, that's a fantastic idea.
If you let people keep the ball, I mean, the ball's cost them fucking nothing. It's got sponsorship all over it anyway, that someone they'll support that. Kick it into the crowd. They catch it in the crowd, it's fucking yours to take home.
I love the idea,
amazing.
Rob. I love it. And you know what's so simple about it is if a player that no one likes, for example, like Cherry Evans kicks the ball into the crowd, no one will touch it.
Yep.
And then they can actually reuse that if they want to.
I was at a Dodgers game in LA. I was there, and I'm not sure which team it was. Might have been the Yankees or the might have been the Diamondbacks. Actually, hit a home run. Right, they hit it up into the stands. Someone in the stands caught it, but because it'd been the opposition hitting it over the fence for a home run, it just sort of fucking lobbed back onto the field. And I was how fucking cool is that?
That's amazing.
That is the ultimate. Fuck
Yeah.
it. I'll get it.
Take your own fucking ball, mate. I don't want.
I'll get the next one.
Rob, mate, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We really appreciate your time. And before you go, mate, is there anything?
Thanks very much.
Yeah, no worries. Anything you want to plug? Where are you playing next?
Oh, look, I'm all over the place. I do loads of sports clubs, footy clubs and stuff like that. If you're looking for a great comedian, jump onto corporatecomedians.com.au. We'll be able to help you out. There you go.
Very funny man, Chip.
Well, I'm surprised when we asked him which animal he'd be and who he'd kill, he didn't go for the sharks as the animal, because that's a pretty lethal apex predator to go with.
Although maybe he wanted a slow death with the kangaroo.
Maybe he wanted to go a bit slower, and the kangaroos have been in the news.
Yes.
I'm not sure they eat people, but they certainly fuck you up.
Oh, they'll fuck you up big time.
Yeah.
In fact, they should never really be our national faunal emblem because they're kind of assholes, aren't they?
Well, some would argue that's... I mean, emus that friendly? They can be pretty fucking rough as well, can't
Bastards.
they? Yeah.
Cassowaries, bastards.
Yeah.
Thank God they're endangered. On that, I actually thought that Rob would go with a giraffe killing Dally Cherry Evans because he kind of looks a bit like a giraffe.
He does look a bit giraffe-like,
And it
doesn't
might
he?
have been, like giraffe on giraffe.
Not as quick, but...
No one near as talented. In fact, I'd say Cherry probably has a longer neck. Now, we're talking Trent Barrett, Chip. Now, this is a very... Trent Barrett is essentially Australia's favourite orphan at the moment because he has no job, Chip. I mean, technically he works for Manly, but they've sort of employed a new coach now in Des Hasler and are denying Trent Barrett a release. And it makes me think, I mean, when this poor bugger hands someone a business card, I'm assuming it just now has his name on it and the words, help me. or something like that, because
Has head coach scratched out.
etched off
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he can't afford to buy new business cards.
Well, that was my next question for you. Was is he going to be getting the same weekly or monthly salary, or have they actually?
I think they'd make him earn it. I think they'd change the commission structure. So before he might have been earning a potentially large amount of money if the Eagles were winning matches. But now that he's not head coach, obviously that incentive structure is sort of out of play now. So it might be built into whatever the new job they have him doing, which at the moment no one knows
What it's going to
that
be.
is.
Maybe it'll change week to week. Could be, Trent. We've got some busted pipes down there for the sewage, mate. Can you dig a trench, Trent, for us?
So do you think they might just get him do sort of odd jobs?
Odd jobs could
around
be,
the
mate.
club?
Can we get 8 flat whites, 6 cappuccinos, a couple of sugars?
Right.
Trent, by the way, mate, when you're done, could be photocopying, could be fixing some office furniture.
Is Trent really qualified for any of that stuff?
Well, I think, when you Trent, you've got to try, you've got to show up every day and be positive. You've got to, keep a smile on your face.
Do you think he would become as irate after, say, a photocopy jam, as he was when he was a coach and the Eagles lost? Remember, he didn't take losses well, Trent. He used to blame the other team a lot, or the refs. Apparently, Manly were never at fault. Potentially, he might take that kind of attitude into his odd jobs.
Into the photocopier room, yeah.
I mean, who would he blow up at if he was doing the plumbing, for example, and he hit a pipe and suddenly just got a face full of turds?
Yep.
I mean, who would he blame?
Well, I mean, maybe he could backtrack where the turd came from.
Right. Reverse engineer
try
it.
and blame maybe some genetic testing.
Right. So whichever anus it came from, track them down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to take a
Look,
lot
it's
of
probably
DNA
going to be
testing.
Cherry Evans, and you can't touch him now.
No.
He's going to be well above his pay grade.
The irony there is that even Cherry Evans's turds would probably have a higher pay grade than most of the players.
Yeah, they'd probably be. They're definitely more valuable than Trent's input.
They'd be getting third-party agreements.
So Cherry's output,
Yes,
is
quite
is,
literally.
better than
Yeah.
Trent's input.
I mean, he's been getting paid on the field for basically turning out complete shit. So why not off the field?
Well, I'll never forget him just, not even talking to the players at half time. Well, I think was it the Roosters they were playing? I forget who it was, but
Probably smashing it.
they were getting smashed. Look, I'm not sure. I kind of think it'd be interesting to see Trent. Let's fill the water bottles properly. Can we have 4.8 parts water to 0.28 parts pineapple and orange juice? Like, not to get too fine a point on it, but just get a little bit of sugar in there. Get the water happening, Trent.
So you want to see him become the water boy a la Adam Sandler in the late 90s?
Let's get him focusing on something.
Yeah, okay.
He's gone from a marquee half to basically a lollipop coach, really.
I feel like he needs a hand, the poor bloke.
All right.
He's,
Okay, fair enough.
basically the Eagles are saying, let's fuck this
You're
guy
a bleeding
over.
heart, aren't you?
A little bit. They're saying, Trent Barrett, we don't like him. He doesn't like us. How do we fuck him over the most?
Yep.
I'll tell you what, he wants a release, we won't give it to him. But what we will do is we'll hire another coach and let him spend his life in limbo.
Yep.
So it's now a case of what can Trent Barrett do to keep his mind active?
Yep.
A bit like when you're in Shawshank or something.
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
If you're in a small cell,
Yep.
You'll slowly go mad, like when you're in the hole.
Maybe that's what they want.
I think that's what they're aiming for.
Yeah.
So let's help Trent out, because I know he listens to the show, with jobs that he can do around the club. Now, we've already mentioned some odd jobs, which are fine, but I don't think they're going to sort of keep him mentally stimulated for too often.
Okay, couple of things. Firstly, let's start decreasing the wattage in his light globes consistently every week, so just room gets darker and darker. Then what I'd like to do is play some really creepy music, like late at night for him.
Okay.
And then get
Are
him
you trying to send him mad or make him less mad?
Well, hear me out. And then I'd like to encourage him to play solitaire and just take a couple of cards out.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so you basically want him to top himself.
Well,
You're the opposite of the bleeding heart.
I'm not
aren't
saying
you?
we gaslight him necessarily,
No,
but
that's
it could
Yeah.
could be a way to go.
Well, it's very Chairman Mao of you.
Thank you.
I mean, look, okay, let's put that down as a maybe. All right, we'll write it down on the pad.
Pencil it in.
Put a line through that. All right, so what can he do around the club? Maybe make him listen to DCE, make it laugh at all of his jokes, because obviously DCE is a fairly unpalatable kind of guy.
Yep.
And one thing that he could do is potentially bear the brunt of all of DCE's unpleasantness.
It's not easy. I mean, most of the Australian team, you could see, they didn't really celebrate much with DCE.
They didn't.
They're
did
like,
they?
yeah, you scored. You're
They
a
got,
cunt.
well done, Dally. And then they that sort of gentleman clap.
Yeah,
You know,
kind
like-
of a tap on the back.
Yeah.
No big hugs, kind of for him.
No way. No way. Even when he was playing well. Did you notice in Game 3 in Queensland, when he had a blinder, they weren't that happy.
Yep.
They weren't actually that happy. So there is something going on there. Look, that's just an idea. What about warming up the crowd? Maybe Trent Barrett could warm
Yeah,
up.
great.
Yeah, although that won't be easy because there's only about 9 of them now.
Can we
that
get him
turn
in the
up.
mascot setup? Can we get him wearing a big eagle, a
Is
big
there-
sea eagle?
I can't even picture what the big eagle mascot looks like.
I think there is one. Yeah, big beak on it. Runs out with
Right.
a jersey, and it's a big white sea eagle.
With lots of feathers and stuff.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I just assumed that because obviously Manly's quite a racist place, they just tarred and feathered a black man.
I mean, if that's what you want to go for, I tend to want to leave racism like well alone on air.
It's tough.
But,
It's
hey,
tough.
look,
It's tough in Manly,
if
mate.
you want to go there, then
Yeah.
that's
It's part of the
great.
fabric. It's part of the fabric. What about if he became Des Hasler's barber? But hear me out.
Okay.
He's only responsible for the follicles that's contained within the mullet. So he leaves the rest of the hair alone.
Yep.
And his entire job next year,
Maybe it could be treatment. You could just apply some treatment
Okay.
to the mullet.
he could do whatever he wants with it.
Actually, make sure it's glossy, it's bouncy.
Could he streak it? Like, in the 90s, how that was popular, the frosted tips,
Yeah,
but
maybe,
just in the mullet.
Maybe he could get. Maybe there's just a section of the hair you could start with,
Yep.
and
The undergrowth.
yeah, maybe
Start
just
there.
just the underneath, so it's not open for the public, and Des could review
What else could he do, mate? Could he
mow the
potentially-
grass. I
Okay,
mean,
so
someone's got to do
he could
that.
Be the greenkeeper.
They could get a ride on mower and just it's broken down, mate. Here's the old push. You know those old push mowers?
Oh yes, you wouldn't even give him one of the
No,
ride-ons.
no, you just give him the push mower.
I think there's a chance he might fuck all that up, to be honest,
It's possible.
Trent, because he's a bit of an airhead at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He'd probably get his chlorophyll levels wrong,
Yep.
pH levels. He'd probably kill off the in-goal area.
So maybe they could get him actually like mowing the lawn on the practice field, but like the second tier practice field. So they don't actually need it. But
Yeah, so I think it's too much pressure. I'd go maybe third tier under 9s.
under nines field?
Yeah, but the third tier squad.
Could they
made
get
up
him-
of the diff kids?
Maybe he could be the assistant coach for like the under eights or something. You could get him just helping out,
Again, I just worry it's too much pressure.
bring in the jerseys
Honestly, I think we've actually made his situation worse.
here
after
tonight
this, yeah.
doing this podcast. So it's become a bit of a Game of Thrones. No coach is safe, no king is safe. You're trying to get 7 kingdoms together. Try doing it with 16 NRL teams. That's a struggle. We've got coaches lying dead everywhere, like left, right, and centre. It's almost like a red wedding of coaches.
You know what I love about you choosing Game of Thrones for the analogy is Jeff Tuvey is very much like King Joffrey. I think it works pretty well.
I was going with Tyrion Lannister, but
But what is going on at the moment, Shiv? I mean, this is probably unprecedented levels of coach swapping at the moment. So obviously we had the breaking news today about Wayne Bennett coming down the south, Anthony Seibold's going up to Brisbane, Ivan Cleary's going to go to Penrith, Trent Barrett's going fucking nowhere. And then we've got David Furner, who's going to South just for 1 year, Chip.
yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, how do you feel? I mean, what's your motivation to get a job somewhere else?
I assume so. You go, I'm going to make this year really good so that when they ask me to leave, they're going to feel bad about it.
Yeah, but Bennett.
It's the best David Furner can hope for. And then, of course, you got Michael Maguire going to the Tigers.
That's a mistake.
And I just wonder at the moment if the NRL's got this all arse about foot, and essentially they're doing the the equivalent of speed dating, but they're doing it at the coaching level. And I'm thinking maybe it's not such a bad idea, Chip. Maybe the NRL's onto a winner here because speed dating is it's meant to be quite a fun activity.
Yep.
Could there be a case where they say a coach can only be at a club for say 4 rounds?
Yeah.
He's got to fuck off somewhere else.
Well, it's an interesting strategy. One thing that pops to mind for me is that if you look at the way the season finished this year with the Roosters and Melbourne on top, I think they're probably the 2 most secure coaches in the game at the moment, with Trent Robinson and Craig Bellamy. So everyone else is kind of up for grabs, really.
Did you ever think Wayne Bennett would be up for grabs, though? I never thought that'd be the case.
It's been coming all year. I mean, we've been talking about it a bit this year, but if you went back 4 or 5 years, I think it's almost disrespectful to Wayne for me.
A little
because,
bit,
you
yeah.
know, he has been an excellent coach.
He's
I know
been, if I may, an ornament to the game.
he has been an ornament. He doesn't move much.
Yeah, he's almost inanimate now.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's inanimate. That's right. But again, it can be made. You know, you can make the case to say he's kind of like the Mal Meninga of Brisbane,
Well, that's just insulting.
because he's had such excellent players for such a long time. I mean, he couldn't really, you know, I mean, he'd be pretty shit to lose. You know,
I'm wondering, has there ever been a year that Wayne Bennett's missed a final series since 1988 or whatever he's been coaching?
I don't think so. But if you actually
He
put
might have missed one with St George or
with
Newcastle.
St George or Newcastle, he's done a trip to Newcastle too.
Yeah,
That's
got
true.
them to a preliminary final.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question. I mean, look, on this whole musical coaching, this musical chairs of coaching. What if we went in another direction here and we didn't even have coaches, and we just said every 4 weeks a fan takes over?
Wow.
So there's a ballot. Say we're both in it, and you know we want to be coaching the Roosters. Obviously, that comes up, and they say, Chip, between the rounds of 8 and 12 next year, you're going to be the coach of the Sydney Roosters. Do you think that would make it a better competition or a worse one?
Make it better for me.
You'd enjoy it, wouldn't you?
That's for sure. Yeah.
What tactics would you bring into the Roosters?
I'd give it a go for four weeks or so. Look, I'd probably be one of those guys that would just want to keep Trent on as my assistant coach and just watch and learn. Really, I got a lot of respect for him. I mean, if I was going to
You've
go
got
to
all that power though, Chip.
Yeah.
Sure, you've got the levers there.
Yep.
I refuse to believe for a second that you're not going to pull a few levers.
I'd be pulling a few levers. Don't worry about that. But I don't think I'd be changing the team very much.
Right.
Yeah, my lever pulling would be kind of hanging out with Nick.
Right.
On the weekends and talking about, you know, let's go and have a good time, buddy.
Talking about the
Let's
books.
go spend some money.
Yeah, let's talking about completely legal books.
Completely legal drug taking.
Yep.
Completely.
I get the feeling you'd make some pretty drastic changes. I reckon you'd go, I'm sick of this red, white and blue. Let's go for fluorescent green and brown.
Yeah, see, I really don't think you should have had that extra beer.
I think you're the type that would make that kind of drastic change.
Yeah. You're talking about the red, white and blue, mate. I mean, it's a bit below the belt. Fluoro green and brown, I mean, fuck me.
But you're a man of change. You're a change agent, I would say.
I think you're trying to fit me into a box that's...
Oh, but I think you're outside of that box, to be fair.
I just don't go into that box, mate.
I'll turn it on myself. If I was given 4 weeks at the helm of the Roosters...
What would you do?
I would just have I'd sack everyone and just have midgets.
Okay.
And purely, not because I think I want the Roosters to win and midgets are the way.
Yep.
I'd think I just have to see what that game looks like.
Yep.
I want to see 17 elite athletes versus 17 midgets. If anyone is interested in laughing their ass off on a Twitter feed, they need to go and follow the NRL roast. Have you been on this one, Chip?
That's a funny fucking dude, man. I don't know who the NRL roast is, but put up some quite... In fact, looking here, I think he may have made, or she, may have made an addendum to our poll here with an option E.
And what's he added?
Darius Boyd.
Well,
option
that makes
E.
a lot of sense, doesn't
That's
it?
excellent.
I think
I think we might have to put a bit of a...
Bit annoyed at myself. I didn't think of that, to be honest.
Yeah, but you're a dick.
Yeah, he's stolen my thunder, but that's okay.
You came up with... what did you come up with? Wisdom.
Well, I came up with all of them.
Overrated. Wisdom's overrated, mate.
Is it?
Never got anyone anywhere.
Certainly hasn't got our show anywhere, although we've never tried it, have we?
Wisdom.
But no, honestly, this
Sounds like me.
It's a very funny feed, so big shout out to the NRL roast. If any NRL fans are listening, and I hope you are, because you're in the wrong show if you're not. And while we're on the shout out queue, The Biggest Tiger and Sports Best Friends, fantastic show. If you're into an NRL show that, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it takes no prisoners. It's the opposite of that. What is the opposite of takes no prisoners? Releases them,
Takes
probably.
prisoners. I guess you'd be taking prisoners.
You'd be taking
wouldn't
it,
you?
wouldn't you? Yeah.
It's a bit like, it's not Saudi Arabia.
So you're right, they'd take prisoner. That makes it sound like they're more nefarious, because you know how like prisoner of war camps are sort of
Well, at least you
referred
could
to.
get out again one day, maybe.
Oh, when you're fucking anemic and you have no shoulder blades.
But Media Watch Mario's a good bloke.
He's a fantastic bloke.
He's been very helpful with our show, giving us some pointers and
Constructive.
helping us out.
Yep. That thing he said to you, I thought was an absolute masterstroke. Remember when he said you should grow that beard, but not on your face, on your back?
Yeah.
And I've got to say, I saw you at the beach the other day. We go swimming every Thursday.
It's impressive, isn't it?
The way you groom it,
Yeah.
I think is what I thought was the most masterful aspect.
What I've
of
had
it.
to do is get the 2 mirrors set up and a really long handle on a brush.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, just to actually get it all the hair going the same way.
Right. How do you get the wax there? I noticed
It's
you're
like
waxing
a
it.
mane.
Yeah, it is a little bit, but you've almost got it as sort of a hipster style with the little curly bits, and they sort of come around the side of your. Well, I wouldn't say pecs, man boobs.
Let's
Whatever.
go with whatever you're feeling. But maybe we could organise like a beach day
Right.
for our listeners to come along and stroke the
Stroke the man boobs or the back beard,
well, whatever turns you on.
both at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, the double up. I like that.
Well, it's we're coming to the end of the show, Chip, and look, I would say normally it's okay because we'll probably be back next week, but given it's the off season and there's not a lot of league,
Well, it's been interesting. I think we've been more consistent in the off season the last 2 weeks than we have pretty much in the whole of the regular season.
we got to start somewhere, mate. But look, it gives us to the end of the show, and for normally, as our regular listeners would know, that I usually finish with some witty remark. But for this show, I'm going to throw it over to you.
You're
And
going to
until next time.
support people with bacteria.
Right, isn't that
Maybe
all?
the only culture they have.
And look, I'll throw in my own wisdom here, Chip. If you ever find a pair of old women's panties on the ground, pick them up and put them into the police, because the chances are they were, evidence in a rape.
Scientists say the universe is made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. But they forgot about morons.
And Bert Newtons.
And Bert Newtons. Stay away from those.
The Roosters versus the Sharks. Now, as dyed-in-the-wool Roosters fans, I know we want the Roosters to win this one, but we're not at home.
Oh, then we're fucked.
Okay, so we're at sea.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a rooster and a shark.
Yep.
How are we going to pull this one out of the fire? How does the rooster create a boil over here?
I think we have to basically poison the rooster.
Okay.
I think it's the only way.
Become like gangrenous.
We're going to have a draw. We're going to have to die in order to draw the game.
Come on.
I
we've
mean,
got
let's
some
be honest.
ingenuity, don't we?
The rooster's not going to do any damage to a shark in the open ocean.
Okay, but look, I'm assuming a rooster can swim. Do we know, or do we think that's wrong, or have we got any evidence to support that?
Can roosters fly?
No, they can't fly.
Not
But
really.
I'm thinking they might be able to swim. Here's my question.
I don't think so.
If we can't swim, the shark doesn't even have to fucking turn up.
We might be able to float.
Okay,
Like
a bit like a cork bobbing along.
Yeah.
Right.
Kicking on the water there,
Yeah.
like keeping our neck above the. But once that shark sees you, I mean, that's going to take one bite, you're gone.
What if the rooster in this case, and it is,
I know you want it,
know.
right? But we're done.
What if the rooster in this case, though, Chip, just happened to be really big friends with Mick Fanning,
Okay.
and it was his pet chicken.
Yep.
And Fanning's out. Fucking
You reckon Mick's going to jump in and try and punch the shark
punch a
off?
shark in the face? I mean, he's known for doing it.
I mean, is that a win though for the rooster or?
It's assisted. Maybe he comes off the bench.
Yep.